Hi, I'm sitting here with Joy DeLeo, who's going to have a interesting, hopefully, conversation with me and sharing her pearls of wisdom in relation to sustainability and how our practices can be improved in general in relation to sustainability. So first of all, thank you, Joy, for your time.
You're welcome.
And I'm going to simply ask Joy questions in relation to sustainability and we'll see how we go. So Joy, can you easily and simply describe the term sustainability?
Yes, well, it is a complex term, but perhaps I'll simplify it by saying that sustainability refers to the ability of a system to keep on going indefinitely. Now, whether that refers to environmental sustainability or social sustainability or economic. And perhaps I'll just say a little bit about each one of those. And so just starting with economic sustainability, we're aware that if you're running a business, obviously you need to be to pay attention to financial viability of the business. You need to make sure that the business can keep on going and that you can maintain student numbers and that the fee level that you've charged can be sustained even if student numbers drop. So that's an example of economic sustainability, and it's also sustainability relates to certain ethical principles and values. So honesty and integrity, accountability and responsibility. So sustainable accounting practices also relate to integrity in business. When we're looking at social sustainability, we're really referring to the well-being of society. Now, training providers contribute to social well-being by providing training that meets the skill needs of society, which in turn helps economic development. But also from the perspective of a training provider, if you, for example, make sure that you meet the needs of your students, that you ensure access for students who are disadvantaged or vulnerable workers, and that you provide support services to ensure that they are able to complete the training successfully. So that would be an example of social sustainability. Now, environmental sustainability, which is the one that most of the training packages have really focused on, is looking at two things. One is your own sustainable work practices to make sure that you use less water, less energy, less gas, less products generally, or that you use them more efficiently and effectively, and that your waste is not going to pollute the environment, so you manage your waste, and also you look at your purchasing practices to make sure that you're using products that are not harmful to either your clients or to the environment. But the second part of that is your training practices. So what you're trying to do as a training provider, on the one hand, is to model sustainability in action, but also to train your students in how to live and work sustainably themselves. And I'll talk more about that later in terms of how you do it through the employability skills. So we'll talk a bit more about that later.
Excellent, thank you so much. So Joy, in your opinion, why do you think sustainability has become such a focus in our current climate?
Yes. Well, actually, it's been an important issue for decades. But really, it's the urgency of climate change that has really brought it to the attention of governments worldwide. We originally had the UN Decade for Education for Sustainable Development, which is from 2005 to 2014. So governments all over the world are putting in place their national action plans for sustainability for all levels of education, whether that's school, vet or higher ed. Then we had the UK Stern Review that basically said we can't afford to not do anything about this. The cost of fixing it up later will be beyond our ability to afford it, so we need to do it now. Then we had the Garnaut report in Australia, and more recently also the Al Gore film that you probably saw, An Inconvenient Truth, and the book of the same name, which really popularised the whole issue of climate change. And so the communities now come on board and there's a demand, and now the federal government is looking at putting in place a carbon pollution reduction scheme, and when it does, industry will really be screaming out for training for their staff.
Excellent. Okay. So Joy, the new SB10 or the new beauty training package is, SIB10, I better get it right, is aimed at providing qualifications for people wanting to work in personal services such as beauty therapists, makeup artists and nail technicians, where, why and how do you see the relevance of sustainability for an individual working in that area or any of those areas?
Yeah, there are a number of areas where it's relevant for individuals, and they're covered in the training package, and many of those are fairly obvious in terms of the need to use less water, looking at the products that are being used to make sure that they're not harmful, looking at how you manage waste, and also how you use power, energy and resources, maybe switching off equipment when it's sitting idle or not needed. So there's some of the obvious areas, but really it's for industry to identify as they go along what their needs are. So I would recommend that for training providers it means negotiating and working closely with the industry, because their sustainability needs will change over time as there is innovation in equipment and in materials, and so it's important to be flexible and adaptable to change. In terms of individual trainers with their students and with their trainees, it's a matter of first of all modelling sustainable practices, but secondly encouraging them as students to ask hard questions. Why are we doing things this way? Can we do it better? Are there more sustainable ways in which we can work? Why are we using this product and not that one? And basically asking questions, thinking critically, and being quite innovative in solving problems and working out solutions. So that's probably the number one skill that you're teaching to students, as well as modelling the practices.
Okay, that's an excellent way of looking at it, actually. So, which also has a little bit to with what you've just said, but from a small business perspective, is the relevance of sustainability very different from what we've just talked about, or?
It's very similar. Sustainability principles are pretty much the same regardless of which business you're in and whether you're large or small, although it might look different when it's implemented according to which industry you're in, because clearly there are different sustainability issues across industries. But for small providers and small businesses, because they might not be able to afford to employ someone specifically to manage sustainability, they have to be a little more creative in how they go about it. So, for example, they might engage with their staff and call for expressions of interest in staff who might want to get involved and add it to their role. You might find that there are 2 or 3 people interested who might be able to be champions for sustainability in the organisation. And the thing is to start small, to start slowly. Don't try to do everything at once. Maybe start with the easy things, get some quick runs on the board that maybe generate some benefits in terms of savings, economic savings. Then you can invest those savings into the business and keep going on the more challenging aspects of sustainability.